And the construction woes continue on our SEC road trip, but once again, that's not going to stop us from bringing you our next prediction here in Lexington at Kroger Field, home of the Kentucky Wildcats. And you know, it's really hard to believe that Mark Stoops is entering his 12th season here in Lexington. He has a 73-65 overall record with 8 straight bowl appearances for Kentucky, and even passed Bear Bryant as the winningest head coach in program history. Now he has a loaded team coming back in 2024, and it's a guarantee, in my eyes, that Kentucky's going to make it 9 straight bowl games. But how many wins will they reach? Take a look at the roster. Offense, much better than you think. They are on their 5th offensive coordinator in the last 5 years. Bush Hamden now coming in as the offensive coordinator from Boise State. But they returned 8 starters, landed a coveted transfer quarterback and Brock Vandegrift from Georgia. Vandegrift never ever to get over that starting job in Athens. You know, Stetson Bennett had it for a while, then Carson Beck took over. But Vandegrift, an elite talent, an elite passer, going to be extremely dangerous for Kentucky this year. They also had Gavin Wimsatt in from Rutgers. Hamden's a guy that likes to run his quarterbacks a little bit, so don't be surprised to see Gavin Wimsatt get more playing time than you think. Maybe some design quarterback run packages specifically for him. So 2 solid quarterbacks for the Wildcats. They add Chip Trainum in at running back from Ohio State. Dane Key comes in as the leading wide receiver from last year. And they also add Jamori Macklin, the star wide receiver from North Texas. First team American Athletic Conference last year with over 1,000 reception yards, and they have an offensive line that has a combined 156 starts. This is going to be a dangerous Kentucky offense, one that I think is going to be better than they were last year. Defense, 10 starters are back. They're loaded defensively. That's Mark Stoops' bread and butter, right? He's a great defensive-minded coach and perennially has a very underrated defense here in Lexington. De'Eric Jackson returns at linebacker as the leading tackler from last season. They're loaded on the defensive line. Deion Walker back after 7.5 sacks. In the secondary, you've got Maxwell Hairston at cornerback, had led the team with 5 interceptions last year, loaded at all 3 levels defensively. This is a Kentucky team that is going to be very, very dangerous, but they do have a rather difficult schedule. They've got to play Georgia. They've got to go to Ole Miss. They've got to go to Florida. They've got to go to Tennessee. They've got to go to Texas. A lot of dangerous road trips here, which means Kentucky needs to take care of business at home. And that's exactly what they're going to do in the first 2 weeks of the year when they beat Southern Miss in week 1 and South Carolina in week 2. Against the Gamecocks, they've lost the last 2, but 2 years ago, dealt with quarterback issues, major reason why they lost South Carolina then. Last year, Kentucky couldn't get out of their own way, -3 in the turnover margin and a 17-14 loss to Shane Beamer's squad. South Carolina's going to be better on offense, but not nearly enough to exploit this Kentucky defense, especially on their home turf. Kentucky wins, they're 2-0, and then they get to host Georgia. They have lost 14 straight to the Bulldogs, including a 51-13 loss last year, where they gave up 608 yards of offense to Georgia. Unbelievable. 16-6 was the margin of defeat here, only 10 points in Kentucky 2 years ago, but I think it's going to be a little bit more than that this year. Georgia's still loaded from top to bottom, arguably the best quarterback in the country in Carson Beck. Going to be maybe a show-me game for Brock Vandegrift, an opportunity to show that Georgia made maybe the wrong decision in choosing Carson Beck over him. I'm going to disagree with that. Carson Beck, light years ahead, I think, of Vandegrift. Kentucky loses their first game of the year. They're 2-1. Bounce back, though, here at home. Beat Ohio to be 3-1. So the first 4 games of the year are right here in Lexington. A pretty favorable start to the year, and they start 3-1 with that. Then the schedule gets tough. On the road at Ole Miss. Last time they had to travel to Oxford, it was a fantastic matchup. Kentucky was ranked 7th in the country, and they were taking on the 14th ranked Rebels. And it was just a back and forth, kind of sloppy games at times, especially by Will Levis. They end up losing to the Rebels 22-19. Now Ole Miss has 20 starters back, one of the best offenses in the country, have one of the best transfer portal classes coming in this year under Lane Kiffin. The offense is going to be one of the best. The defense is very underrated. Now in Oxford, I just don't feel good about Kentucky's odds here, and Ole Miss might even be the best offense that the Wildcats face all season. Georgia's going to be good. Texas is going to be good. Even Tennessee is going to have a dangerous offense. But Ole Miss could have the best that this defense sees all year. Coming out of their bye week, they are 3-2. Maybe not where they want to be, but they will cruise past Vanderbilt back at home. So they get to 4-2. Won 45-28 last year after their upset loss to the Commodores 2 years ago. As we previewed with Vandy, though, they're going to be improved statistically, but not enough to increase in the win column. Kentucky does beat them and then goes on the road to Florida for that big-time rivalry game. last year here in Lexington. It was an upset, if you want to call it that, for Kentucky over the Gators. Had 329 rushing yards by the Wildcats. Amazing day by Ray Davis. It was an unbelievable job by him. But now Ray Davis, as we know, is gone. And now they have to go to the Swamp, which is one of the most difficult places to play in the entire country. A place where Kentucky is just 2-20 in the last 22 meetings there. Not a very good mark. Although granted, 2 of those 3 wins have come in 2 of the last 3 meetings, or 2 of those 20 wins, I should say. That includes a win back in 2022 when they won by 10 points, 26-16. That was kind of what put Kentucky not back on the map, but started to see them skyrocket in the rankings. Maybe say, hey, the Wildcats might be for real in the Eastern Division. Obviously now, no divisions in the SEC. They've won 3 straight over Florida in this series. So after Florida won, 31 straight games, Kentucky has kind of started to make it a much more competitive series and played them much better. But I don't like their odds in the Swamp. Florida has a veteran quarterback in Graham Mertz. They've got a veteran running back. They've got a much better front 7 than we saw last year. And while this game I think is going to be relatively low scoring, home field advantage is the difference maker. Florida gets the win in the Swamp, and Kentucky takes their 3rd loss of the year. They're not going to be able to rely as heavily on the run as they did last year, and they fall to the Gators. They come back home for their SEC home finale. Their SEC finale, home finale, is on October 26th. They've still got a month of football left to play after that, but this is going to be their last SEC home game. Kind of crazy how that works out. They take on Auburn. And ironically, like we said with Florida, home field being key, I think home field is key for Kentucky in this game. Auburn is going to be better in year 2 under Hugh Freeze. The offense is going to be better. The defense is going to be better. But they're not going to have enough to beat the Wildcats. So again, this could be one of the most talented teams that Mark Stoops has fielded during his time in Lexington. This is an Auburn team that only averaged 162 passing yards per game. And while I expect those numbers to increase, I don't expect whoever the quarterback is for Auburn, to most likely Peyton Thorne, to win this game through the air for the Tigers. Kentucky will bottle up the run. Auburn's passing attack isn't good enough. Wildcats beat the Tigers and enter the month of November now with 5 wins. They need just one more to go bowling, which really is kind of the expectation now after 8 straight years of bowl eligibility. They don't get their next bowl win, or their next bowl eligibility, I should say, on the road at Tennessee. Tennessee, coming into this game off a bye, has dominated Kentucky in this series. The Wildcats 1-18 in Knoxville since 1986. The only win came back in 2020, where the Wildcats benefited from 2 pick-sixes. Tennessee's front 7 is extremely dangerous. It's going to be a great battle between that Tennessee defensive line and that Kentucky offensive line. But that Kentucky secondary, while strong, can they contain this passing attack from Tennessee, now led by Nico Iamaleava? I'm going to say no, especially at Neyland Stadium, where Kentucky, once again, never plays well. They lose that game to the Volunteers, get their bye week, cruise past Murray State, so they've clinched bowl eligibility for the 9th straight year, which if you had told a Kentucky fan that 10 years ago, 15 years ago, they would have been shocked. Probably wouldn't have even believed you. So 9 straight bowl appearances for the Wildcats. They go on the road to Texas. They're going to lose to the Longhorns. Again, an electric offense, one of the best quarterbacks in the country in Quinn Ewers. Austin, not an easy place to play at all. I think Kentucky plays them closer than people think. Texas still escapes with the win. They're 6-5, but they clinch another winning season, beating Louisville, their in-state rival. They pulled off the upset last year, a 1-loss Louisville team. Kentucky beat them 38-31 and came back from not 1 but 2 10-point deficits. Now Louisville has to come to Kroger Field. Kentucky has won 5 straight in this series. I just don't see them lose. I can't pick Louisville to win this game until I see them actually do it. I do love this Kentucky squad a lot, though. I think they match up extremely well with Louisville's offense. They're going to be able to slow it down. Louisville did not play nearly as well on the road last year as they did at home. Even though it's an in-state game, it's on the road for the Cardinals. Kentucky wins, clinches a 7-5 record with a shot at another 8-win season, which again, a couple of years ago, maybe people would have scoffed at, thought unbelievable, impossible here in Lexington. Mark Stoops, to me, continues to defy the odds here at this program, continues to make them into a perennial contender, a perennial bowl team, and a perennial team that you cannot afford to overlook. But at the end of the day, some might view this as a disappointing season at 7-5. I view it, once again, as a success. The only other toss-up game I could see this Kentucky winning is maybe the road game at Florida. Maybe you swap that and make them 8-4, but to me, they cannot be any better than that. But regardless, another winning season here in Lexington, a 9th straight bowl game, and Mark Stoops continuing to do a phenomenal job with this program. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube as we continue our on-site predictions. Maybe a few more coming your way. Never know. That's why you got to stay tuned here at the channel. But until then, continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home of those expert picks. We're getting close to the start of the season, so the earlier you sign up for those, the better. Tons of exclusive content for you over there. Again, over on thegridironexpert.com. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.